Hi guys, welcome to another episode of MJ's Gaming Spotlight, and I'm still working on the title, so it's kind of changing. Same thing as MJ's Game Chat previous episodes. It's just a little video to kind of geek out a little bit and talk about game rules, and it will be a game that's in my library, and I'll just pull it out randomly and present it and talk a little bit about it. It's a very basic overview. It's not an intense analysis or anything of the game. It's just a basic overview. Some of the things that have really caught my attention about the game and everything else. So a lot of it is my own opinion and not necessarily the opinion of others. So just keep that in mind. So it's just a fun little informal game chat, basically. Chat about one rule set or the other. So last episode, I talked about Reign in Hell by Adam Loper and Vince Venturella. And this week, this episode of Game Spotlight, the spotlight is on 5 Parsecs 3rd edition. All right, I just received my 5 Parsecs 3rd edition not too long ago, and it's in digital form, but I also have a copy of the book that's coming, a hard copy. Okay, and the author of 5 Parsecs is Ivan Sorensen, and it's published by Modiphius Entertainment. And I am a patron of this author. I really like his work, not just 5 Parsecs, but all the other rules, and we'll be talking about those in the future. He does have fantasy versions as well as, well, a bunch of different rule sets for different settings. So we'll be talking about that in the future. But this one is dedicated to 5 Parsecs 3rd edition. Very excited about it. All right, so let's get right to it. This is the book is about 188 pages, the version that I have, and it's first impressions. I love it. I mean, the one very interesting thing that I quickly noticed as I started going through the book is that the sections of the book are color coded. So you have some sections are completely red, you know, the outline of the page and everything, they're completely red, you know, the tables, everything like that. And then another section, a different section, could be green or blue or whatever. It's a very well organized book, not only in terms of that sort of physical characteristic, but also in the way it is written. It's a great book. Everything is step by step by step. So a lot of different changes in 3rd edition 5 Parsecs when compared to 2nd edition 5 Parsecs. Now I just came out of 2nd edition. Basically, I all my videos that I have in the channel, all the games that I've played have all been training games. Basically, I did a training packet that came with 2nd edition, and it's like a 7-page document, and you go little by little adding rules at a time as you play the game, and it was great to really learn the game. Haven't seen anything like that for 3rd edition, but you know, I may do something like that to kind of, because it's the best way that I learn, little by little by little. So we'll see. But okay, so for those of you that don't know, and these videos are generally designed for people who are either thinking of getting into a game, or if you're like new to wargaming, or you just want to get into a game is miniature agnostic. All the things that I'll be talking about are generally games that are miniature agnostic. They don't have a miniatures line, so it's just the rules. Things that you can get at War Games Vault, Modiphius Entertainment, or Drive Through RPG, any of those things. So I just had to say that. So 5 Parsecs from Home is very RPG oriented. It is an adventure war game. That's how they classify it in the book. So it's very different because your warbands referred to not a warband, but as characters, and that's what they are. This is a very narrative kind of game. Okay. So conventions of the game include dice, six-sided dice are the dice that you will be using. And I usually use two different colors of dice because one set becomes my reaction dice, and then another set are the dice that I use for all the different rolls. Now, as I mentioned, 5 parsecs is miniatures agnostic. So I just want to say that. The book has awesome artwork. I love the way they added all the different art pieces in the book. Really give you good ideas, you know, and inspiration for characters. So as soon as you start getting into the book, after the introduction and everything else, the first section is character creation. So they take it like that. They go first character creation because obviously that's a very important part of the game. That is the first thing they hit you with, and that's different. I'm going to make a couple of comparisons to second edition. That's very different from second edition because character creation was kind of towards the back. In this book, it's smack right in the front. Okay, and it's a rather large section, obviously, because there are a lot of things to consider when creating your characters. I'm going to go through the different sections, and it's going to be as brief as possible. Okay, there's no way that I can go over everything in the book. It's a fairly large document. All right, so you get 5 abilities, just like you did in the past. Reaction, speed, combat skill, and savvy. Okay, that hasn't changed. You do get your luck points, like you did in the past, your story points. All those things are very important in the game. Now, to choose your crews, there is a section within the character creation that shows you how to choose your crews. They give you 4 examples, right, and of characters that are already filled out, and this is for people of different experience. So, like, if you haven't really played 5 parsecs, and before you actually start creating a character, you kind of want to get an idea what the game is like, you can use the examples of pre-created characters. I really like that. That's cool. It just makes it easier, especially on the new player, right? Because then you're gonna you're gonna look at the stats, and as you play the game, you're gonna learn the game, you know, through these pre-created characters, and then dive into the character creation. Besides all the physical overhauls of the book, there is a random. It is a random method. There are various tables with different things that you need, like weapons and equipment. You know, background story, all that kind of stuff is broken down in this section. One thing that's interesting that I notice are the types of characters that you can have in your crew. For example, bots, right? Robots, assault bots, you know, you can have, I love robots in my crews, so this is something I'm going to definitely look into. And so bots, you have minor aliens and primary aliens. Primary aliens, okay? Every crew type, every background or crew type has good descriptions and starting statistics. So you have your basic stats, which I just mentioned earlier, reactions, you know, savvy, combat skill, all that. Every crew type that you choose, whatever crew type you choose, is going to have its own stat, its own little description. This is very different from second edition. You didn't have that. And you also get some really nice pictures, examples of the characters that you choose. So that gives you ideas for your conversions, you know, or what models you're going to use to represent them. You know, if you want to try and represent them a little closer to the picture, you know, you can. It's just really cool that the book was organized this way. It's a beautiful book. It really is a beautiful book. I was very impressed with third edition 5 parsecs. So once you got, you get on into that, then you have your backgrounds, which is, of course, the stories for your characters, little background stories that fleshes out your characters. You have very good tables in this section as well, and you have excellent weapon art. I love when they show weapon art. It's just, again, something that gives you an idea of what things, what to look for in your conversions. So that's really cool. So, okay, so we have then, once you get over the character stuff, okay, and you start to get into, well, the combat section, right? Not only the combat section, but what we call the encounter section. And this is where you're going to be playing your tabletop battle. Because remember, for those of you that don't know, 5 parsecs is played in campaign turns. So you have a whole bunch of things that happen before you play your tabletop battle, and then a bunch of things that happen after you play your tabletop battle. And all it is rolling on tables and kind of fleshing out the story as you go. So, at first it seems, when I first got into it, it seemed a little bit overwhelming, but then once I did, again, the training packet that this author provided, it really isn't that hard. The encounter section, when you're playing your encounter tabletop battle, my impression, for me at least, it took a little practice, and it still does, because we still get things wrong as I'm playing the game, So hopefully as I play it more and more and get into 3rd edition, we can really start to focus on the system itself. All right, so again, you get a lot of picture examples in this section. This is the combat section. You get your actions, the core mechanic, and this is just an important part of the core mechanic, is that you have your movement and then your combat action. You get those 2 actions, and then you get a number of free actions that you can use if you want to, right? Now, for your actions, and this is something that in my training videos, because in the training packet, it didn't really have that. It wasn't presented that way, at least. But it is presented this way in the rules, is that you can do your movement and then your combat action, but never vice versa. And I generally, like, even in my training videos, I still do combat first and then do a movement. So that's interesting, right? So you may opt to forego one of these actions, movement or combat, but then you can't do them in reverse. So you do have free actions. You have either one free action that you can do for free, or you have 2 free actions that you can do. But if you do choose to do 2 free actions, then you must sacrifice combat. Okay, so in place of the combat. So you get a few free actions examples and things like that. So that's really cool. We still have the stunned mechanic in combat. That's still an important part of the mechanic. Different kinds of movement, so jumping, climbing, alternative movement, which is something that's specific to like certain alien characters or certain characters. They have alternate movement that you can use. And of course your dash, which gives you an extra 2 inches of movement, but then you can't shoot. So it's like you're moving twice. So again, the mechanics are very similar, and I haven't read everything in depth. So again, remember, this is like a basic overview. Now, from that, and we get some pictures, examples of line of sight and things like that, which are great, always great to have. They go into the enemy AI. And it's new the way it's presented in this book. There's more descriptions of combat regarding the alien AI, which is great. And one of my favorites on page 48 of the book. And one of the interesting things is that that's different from 2nd edition is that the AIs now have specific examples with little pictures of the AI, how they're set up basically. So that is extremely helpful because, although in second edition, the descriptions are very good, and you can pretty much kind of lay out your enemies without a problem, but it's always nice to have those little pictures that tell you this is where they're located. It's just great. I love that about this edition of 5 parsecs. So once we do, like, they go over the core mechanics, and that's the core mechanics of the combat encounter section, right? Once we go through that section, then we jump over to campaign section. And this is a large section, as expected. It starts, at least in my copy of the book. Digital copies can be different from hard copies sometimes for whatever reason. But page 63 to page 86 is basically all the campaign section. You have a battle section with difficulty levels. I love that too, because now one of the things that really caught my attention is that I could start with 4 characters, if I want to. And I always love, whenever I'm learning a game, to start with the lowest possible model count so I can wrap my head around the rules and whatever. So the fact that it has those different difficulty levels like that is great. Now, in the second edition, you also had difficulty levels, and they're structured a little bit different. But it's just nice that here it tells you, okay, if you're playing with 4 characters, this is what you do. If you're playing with, 6 characters, this is what you do. So again, step by step, very well described rulebook, very well written rulebook. So the minimum, of course, is 4 characters, the number of models that you're going to use. Then there are enemy tables here, and they're very concise. And again, everything, it's like color coded, as you will see. It gives you, just like it did in the past, it gives you examples of table sizes, suggestions for table sizes for your encounters. And again, examples of how to set up your enemy AI. We already talked about that. So as you move through there, it's going to give you all of the campaign tables that you need to do your campaign turn. And of course, you have pre-encounter, then you have the encounter, and then you have the post-encounter. So that's the whole campaign turn. So it takes you through all of that, all the different rolling and everything else. And as far as I can see, and for those of you that have studied the rule book more in depth, you'll know better. But I can see most of the things are very similar. In core, are the same things as in second edition with regards to campaign turn, except things are described differently, organized, nicely, things like that, right? So the difference is more in how the book reads in this section. So then we get into another section. It has an appendices, which is nice. I always love it when a rule set has an appendices that gives you extra things, extra descriptions and things. There is a section for playing an encounter on an actual grid. So think like those D&D maps and stuff that have like the D&D grid maps that you can get. So you can actually play an encounter with a grid map, and that was great. I think that's a nice addition to the new rules. There is a problem solving information here in this section, and then a story track. Story track is just another optional mechanic that you can add to the rules, and basically, it just gives you more flavor. It is optional. It says it recommends that you first play the game, get familiar with the game, and then add a story track, to the game, so that it just gives it more flavor. There is co-op play, a section for co-op play. Character inspiration. This was something that's great that they added to the book. You get a whole bunch of little pictures of different characters and aliens, and that's very important. I think it reminds me of some RPGs in the past that had these like yeah, I could say columns of little characters, little pictures of characters. So that's really cool, and that's something new. Um, the log sheets are, of course, restructured now. They look nice, very nice. And that's pretty much it. That's all the sections I'm going to go through. Again, these are very simple overview and to show some pictures of the book. And I don't own any of that art. That's, you know, the art that I show here in these little videos is just for purposes of showing the book, you know, what goodies it has in it. Okay. So, and my overall impressions, it's a great rule set. I can't wait to try it. I am still studying the book a bit, and then I'm gonna go through character creation for third edition. I think I want new characters, and then set them up and start playing a little bit of third edition 5 parsecs. You know, one very important thing is how other books, second edition books like the Rules Compendium and everything else, Bug Hunt, you know, how they're going to fit with third edition. So we'll see that. And that's something that I want to try out because there's a lot of very good rules in the 5 parsecs Rules Compendium as well. Okay. And if I remember correctly, you can use these expansions, you know, with the books. We'll have to see what. I know that Bug Hunt is getting a cover update, and that brings me to the next thing. We're going to mention this in the Martin and Julie talk when we film it later on today. But a good friend of the channel, anax, is presented. He announced on his channel that there is now this little contest going on for it's 3 miniatures to be painted, and these miniatures will be used in a dynamic setting for a new cover of Bug Hunt. The cover is up for an update, an upgrade, and so they want to present some painted minis. So if you're a painter and you're interested in that, I will have the link in the description. We're also going to talk about this in the Martin and Julie chat. Go over to anax channel and check it out because he has a video on there. It's very interesting, and you know, you might get your minis put on there in the cover, you know, so it's like a little contest. Great stuff. So check them out, and that's about it, guys. That's all I have. I will be changing. I'm going to be playing around with the title of these videos until I finally find something. But basically, this is your MJ game chat. That's what I called it before. Okay, so these are the same series. All right, folks. So thank you very much, and we'll talk very soon in the next video. And welcome new subscribers. Have a great one.